Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Carlene. Carlene is the founder and CEO of Brooklyn Minds. Carlene, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
So, give us a brief background about yourself, what you've been doing before Brooklyn Minds.
Sure. So I started my professional life as an adult and child psychiatrist. I went to Harvard for undergrad, medical school, and then stayed there in their hospital system after my residency training. And I was, seeing patients clinically and tended to focus on kind of higher acuity, higher complexity type cases psychiatrically. And then I guess about like 6 years ago or so, I moved to New York. Away from the sort of academic scene that I had at Harvard. And I really wanted to have a practice sort of similar to what I had in Boston, but it really didn't exist. The type of community and focus on kind of complex mental health in the outpatient setting just really wasn't there in New York. I saw a lot of sort of solo practitioner, private pay type situations. So ended up founding Brooklyn Minds with my husband, who's also a psychiatrist, about 3.5 years ago. And we started just the two of us. And now we have just two of us in like a single little office in Williamsburg, single little room. And now we have 3 offices and about 50 employees, 20 or so of which are clinicians, and offering just really comprehensive, high quality outpatient mental health care using a team-based, tech-enabled approach. So,
Nice.
yeah.
So, going forward, because of COVID, everyone has been forced to go remote, right? And because of that, multiple companies are facing multiple challenges, right? So let's start with the creativity element of how to do creativity through Zoom, because prior to this, it has always been, the creativity comes around pizza. 6 people around a pizza, and you put them in a box, and they're kind of like creative, and they come up with the next marketing idea or the next idea. So let's
Mm-hmm.
start with that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think in terms of our treatment offerings, we weren't really doing much online beforehand. We always had kind of a distributed team and people working at different places and had, worked out ways to do that. But with patients, you want to be creative in your therapy. So we've actually done quite a bit using the whiteboard on Zoom, doing kind of drawing, shared activities, as well as even like sharing music with each other. I have one family therapy case where we tried to guess theme songs for each other and pick theme songs and play them. And those were things that probably in the office we really wouldn't have done, but now everybody's on their device. They're able to really show and play things that are meaningful to them. And that has kind of, I would say, inspired newer kind of exciting conversations. And we're seeing a lot of families become even more engaged in family therapy, I would say, than they had been in the office setting, which is just sort of traditional, and you come in and you sit down and maybe you do an activity, but it's not quite the same. It's not quite the multimedia experience that we've been able to make it since switching to telehealth.
So, next question, because of the recent scenarios and the recent killing of George, it has sparked very unfortunate, and we're seeing all the protest and everything happening in the city, in the country, in the whole process. So what are you advising to your patients, customers, their families, how to pass these mental health times, just being in front of Zoom and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when COVID hit, there was obviously a lot of challenges with self-care and people's routines being disrupted and dealing with tremendous uncertainty. And during that time, there was a lot of focus on people developing routines they could stick to in the pandemic, kind of creating structure to their day, and doing basic things: exercise, sleeping, eating well. Finding ways to connect with others in a sort of, thoughtful way. And I would say since, the events of the past 2 weeks regarding George Floyd and all of the uprising, I think those things are still are still true. I think the only difference is now that I think curiosity has a bigger role to play. And I think being curious about the other people in your life, particularly people who don't, have the same skin color of you, don't come from the same cultural background, just kind of asking them what they need, or what they would like to share or not share, and being like really flexible for people that really, they might want to talk and others might not want to. Others might find that intrusive, in terms of, our coworkers and whatnot. So really just, I would say, listening, and being flexible during this time.
So, being a founder, psychiatrist, psychologist, you have to wear multiple hats during the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, managing remote teams as a founder, what are the 3 tricks of how to manage your teams in a better way and improve keep the team motivated, the productivity, you know?
Yeah, managing teams in the virtual setting is what you're asking about, kind of thing. Yeah. So I think we as a company have really always told people when we're doing virtual meetings, even pre-pandemic, to whenever possible, keep your camera on during the meetings. That I think that people feel so much more connection if they can actually see each other. And that's something that I try to model as a leader. I don't have to have perfect hair and makeup that day. I'm still gonna have my camera on. Right? There's obviously exceptions. People are in areas that don't have privacy, or they're eating their lunch or something. But for the most part, we found that way to maintain connection really helps. We've also been instituting twice weekly kind of social hours. We used to call them in-person rituals, because we don't like happy hour, because definitely a lot of our employees don't drink, and we didn't want something centered around drinking. Now we call them rituals, so virtual rituals.
Yeah.
And that's just a free-flowing time where people can show up, not show up, connect. And I think that's been really helpful to do. And in a lot of ways, we used to do those locally in New York, and the members of our team that were in North Carolina, or the members that we have in California that are sort of scattered about, they would never participate in those. And now we're seeing people connecting kind of across the country, across our team, in this social way. And so that's been really nice. And then I think the third thing really would be just doing more checking in. Am I getting that right? Doing less via like texting or emails, because I think so much in terms of tone can be misconstrued. It's much easier to just say, let's just jump on a Zoom call and talk about this, rather than kind of go back and forth in ways that I think we're seeing employees can get stressed out and feel like they're being criticized, and you don't really have any idea what's going on in their world right now, and where somebody's sending an email from a place where they're having to juggle childcare or a sick relative or whatever. I think the more conversational stuff can really help overcome some of that.
Got it. So, last question. What advice are you giving out to everyone, the families and everyone, how to take care of their mental health in a much better and efficient way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first part is really just making time for it, right? Everybody says they don't have time, they're too busy, and you actually have to carve out that time to find things that work for you. I like to tell people that we shouldn't assume that everyone wants to meditate. We shouldn't assume that gardening is relaxing for everybody. For some people, working on a spreadsheet is what gives them joy and a sense of mental calm. And so really for people to reflect for themselves what makes them feel centered, what makes them feel that they have some value, that they're, something that is good for their mental health is going to look really different for each person. And I don't mean to assume that, you should try these breathing exercises or, some of the tips I see out there that are well-intentioned, but just miss the mark for a lot of our people.
Carlene, thank you so much for being on the show. We would have loved to discuss more, but my marketing team tells me I have to keep it within 9 minutes. Otherwise, they cut me off. They literally cut me off. So,
all right. Well, no, happy to be here, and yeah, have a good rest of your day.
enjoy. Stay safe. Take care of
All
yourself.
right. Thank you.